Hey, welcome to FireClue Show. We hope you're tuning in. I am Sandy Archer. I am the general manager of Fire Analysis, and we are going to be talking and speaking a lot about fire. And here is our other co-host,
Mike Slapman. And I'm a past president of the International Association of Arson Investigators. And I'm the senior consultant for Fire Consulting International and the owner of that company. And today we got some really great guests for you. What we're going to do with FireClue, which is put on by the Icove Ingram Group, is to educate you, but to also entertain you. We are going to present cutting edge developments in fire investigation, research. We're going to talk to engineers. We're going to talk to scholars, as we are today, Dr. David Icove, and we're going to talk to practitioners that are great in the practice of fire investigation, like past President Bob Toth, who's with us today too. I'm going to introduce those people in a moment, but just let you know that if you tune in with us, you will find out a lot about fire investigations. Now, this goes out to the general public, so we're not going to talk about how we catch arsonists, but we're going to talk about research in fire, and we're talking about cutting edge stuff in this age. Now, today is a fulfillment of that process already. This is about AI for fire investigations. Now, we've got the scholars, Dr. David Icove, and we've got Bob Toth. Now, Dr. Icove, if you don't know, is the one of the two authors of Kirk's fire investigation, and he was the author with John DeHaan, God bless his soul, before with Kirk's fire investigations. Now, this is 8. This is not only with Dr. Icove, but Gerald Haynes. So they wrote this together. This one, I recommend that you buy immediately, because not only does it have the JPRs in there, which 1033 requires, but it tells you how to complete them. 1033 just says you will diagram the scene. This is the volume that tells you how to do things. So buy that. Also, we have the scholar of As Seen on Scene from the International Association of Arson Investigators, a journal. That's Bob Toth, and he gives you the latest technical information and different kinds of equipment that you can buy for fire investigations. So Dr. Icove has been in the business for many years. He was a former FBI agent. He worked for the Tennessee Valley Authority. He's still a professor at Knoxville, University of Tennessee in Knoxville. And Bob Toth is a very successful fire investigator, as seen in IAAI, a past president of the International, and is, as far as I'm concerned, Dr. Icove and Bob Toth are the scholars that you need to listen to about AI. So, Sandy, if you could bring in Dr. Icove.
Hello.
And Bob Toth.
Good day, everyone.
Hello. We're very honored to have you guys on. So thank you.
Happy to be here.
That's right.
Dr. Icove, can you hear us? And I see that you're in Tennessee in Knoxville today. Are you not?
I am, and enjoying the weather, and also enjoying the fact that we get to stay on today with this great presentations.
Well, we want to thank you. You are the Icove of Icove Ingram Group. So thank you for financing this this endeavor. Doctor, if you would give us just an opening about how did you get into with Bob? How did you get involved in the IA portion of fire investigation? Can you hear me, Doc?
Well,
Yeah.
AI has been with us for a long time,
Yes.
and we originally used it in the 70s in looking at predicting the behavior of serial arsonists. And not only could we identify potentially their next targets, but also their characteristics, their profiles, and in some cases where they actually lived or worked. So these were some tools and techniques that have been around for a long time. They were at that time called pattern recognition, which is a subfield of AI now. But from that point, it also evolved in what we called the arson information management systems that were promulgated by the U.S. Fire Administration. And then just recently, Bob Toth and I have applied it to looking at analyzing and extracting information from forensic fire investigation cases. It's been very successful, and we appear to be the leaders in the field at this point.
Wow, that's really impressive. So so if you have a general impression of AI, and you're saying it's been around since the 70s, what how do you use it? Do you use a chat GPT? Just basically, how do you use it? Like, what platform do you use it on?
We exclusively use a standalone platform that's not attached to the internet. The problem
Ah,
with using some
okay.
of the commercial packages or the online ones is what we call data leak. You can put a question or a file in there, say you want to analyze somebody's deposition. It's going to be captured on the web somewhere. So we're
Right.
very concerned about maintaining the integrity of the work that we do. So uh,
Okay.
a large majority of what we develop is on a standalone system, and
Okay.
where it's not connected to the internet and doesn't give access. However, it does give us the capability of doing some things that are not capable by some of the systems that are out there. So we've basically homegrown our own our own package to be able to point to and work on the things that we feel most comfortable with, as well as what we can provide. Uh, one of the uh, one of the interesting areas that Bob Toth has put together is the ability for us to not only look at a report or a scenario or an article, but to also automatically generate PowerPoint slides, lesson plans, narratives for use with the presentations. These are some things that are wide ranging, and with the changing times, you need to be able to push forward and take advantage and leverage these types of resources.
And yeah, so well, thank you, Doctor. And Bob, talk to me for a second about how you got interested in it. I'm certainly you're at the cutting edge of everything technical in fire investigations, and I know you, and sometimes you're speaking way above my head. So let's try and dumb it down to Slapman. Well, maybe a little, yeah, dumb it down to Slapman, will you? And kind of give me an idea how you got involved in AI, and also what you think are one of, I know you're going to talk about different areas that will help us, but at the same time, what do you think the value is to the fire investigator on the street?
Oh, geez, the value in I don't know if you can measure it, like in the efficiency in which a fire investigator can gather data, and the speed and efficiency in which all of that data can be analyzed to provide you an output that is actionable is absolutely incredible. Just as an example, I participate in a class we do down in Huntsville, Alabama every year. We provide the students 75 pages of IRS tax documents for a particular practical exercise that the students are required to participate in. And over the course of a day or a day and a half, they have to go over those 75 documents, analyze all of the numbers, and everyone knows how we love working with IRS tax forms. Analyze all those numbers and identify whether or not the people involved in this particular incident that they're investigating has any motive or shows any indication that there could be a failing business and a possible reason for insurance fraud. And up until this year, those students would take a good portion of the day and into the evening trying to assimilate all of that information. Just 75 documents. This year, we allowed them to struggle through that for a while. Then we took those 75 documents, and in front of them, I asked AI to analyze these particular financial documents, provide an analysis, and identify any indications of how their business is operating and the condition of their business, and expose any indication of possible insurance fraud. And in less than 5 minutes, it produced like a 6 or 7 page report or document that says, well, here, and here, the business revenues have fallen 75% in the last 6 months. Costs have risen. There's a bankruptcy. There's all these other activities going on that would indicate a high probability that the business is failing, which could expose a motive for the insurance fraud. And that was done in less than 5 minutes. So, and what we talk to the students about and what we talk to the investigators about is, now, this is not something that you as an investigator are going to take this 4 or 5 page report that was generated by AI and go to testify on it and use that as part of your reasoning for this particular portion of the investigation. But what it does do, it reduces the amount of time that information can be analyzed. And what it should be telling the investigator at the end of that is this is not the answer to your question, but it's what it is an indication that you need to find another subject matter expert, in this particular case, a forensic accountant, to evaluate all of those documents, because AI is not going to take the stand and raise their avatar hand and testify to the accuracy of this information. That's going to still have to be done by a human subject matter expert. And that's where a lot of people, that's the piece of one of the pieces of the puzzle that people fail to recognize, is that no matter what this produces for you, it still requires human expertise oversight.
So it's really it's lead generation in a lot of instances, correct?
Yeah. It reduces incredibly the amount of time you would typically need to identify those leads and where to pursue the investigation. Absolutely. But I'm sorry, back to your original question, how I got involved in this thing was probably 5 years ago. I heard about this AI thing called Jasper AI. And Michael, you know as well as I do, as a small business, it's all about that front of mind presence and marketing, and what can you do to keep your name in front of people.
Right.
And you know, there's numerous things you could do, and the most common thing people do is they create newsletters and they put them out. So I went to this thing called Jasper AI while it was still free and relatively new in my mind, and I just told it, I said, I'm a fire investigator, I run a small business. I said, give me 10 interesting titles for newsletters that I could send out to my clients on a regular basis. And in a matter of seconds, it produced 10 eye-catching titles for newsletters. And I said, well, these are really cool. I said, can you produce a newsletter for each of these topics? And about just as quickly as it did, it produced 10 newsletters, each one for each of those titles. And then, of course, I was a human oversight. I went through and made sure that the information was accurate and polished it up. But what it did, it allowed me to create 10 newsletters in less than 3 hours reviewing them and polishing them up and having them ready to go at regular intervals.
Fantastic.
And you know as well as I do, if you and I were supposed to sit down and type out 10 newsletters, it could be 10 days before we get something out, you know. So that was my first introduction to AI and how quickly we can produce newsletters for our clients.
Yeah, I would give Sandy and Donna the assignment myself personally. So
yeah,
I just do the polishing. So,
right.
So Doctor, so now we know about both of you on how
Right.
you kind of started it. Sandy, did you have any questions for him?
I do, because of course. So how many people are using this in the field, in the industry? Do you have metrics on that, or, you know, do you know how many people are utilizing this at this point, or are you just in the teaching stage of it? So it's not as.
Yeah, I don't have numbers on that, and we're still exposing a lot of fire investigators to the potential of this tool.
Right.
Doctor, you were
I
gonna,
think it.
Sorry,
I just,
Go ahead, Mike.
Go ahead.
I
just came back from a conference at the University of California, Berkeley. And it was specifically for the fire protection engineering community on the use of AI all the way across the board, having to do with everything from searching and retrieving and interpreting fire codes, building codes, that was being used also in aerial surveillance for potentially predicting forest fires.
Oh, wow.
And it was across the board as far as the use. So it was an international conference, and they put together a 10-year plan just for in the fire protection community how to apply effectively and safely AI. But what we, in addition to what they were looking at, especially in the codes field, for example, if you have you need to look at the National Electrical Code from 2018 versus the present issue. You may need to know what the differences were between the two. And other things, fire codes, the impact of sprinkler systems, for example, on the dead end limits involving the life safety code, it changed. And so if somebody says that the building was constructed in this way, especially during an investigation, what impact would the sprinklers have had before or after? We're also finding it very helpful in summarizing depositions and reports. And in some cases, I'll have clients that'll call me up, or Bob Toth and I like to use it for examining our own expert reports in preparation for a deposition, and say, okay, give me 20 questions that you could expect me to be asked of me, or through another expert in the case. We can also use it for looking at fact patterns. The number of times that the institutional knowledge of having seen a scenario before can really impact what you bring to the table as a forensic fire investigator. So if you haven't seen the occurrence of a certain scenario, such as, for example, light fixtures or any type of consumer product, the ability to look through and analyze and look for lost histories helps out in looking at hypotheses for what you should have considered. It's better to find out about these now than later in the deposition or during trial. So these fact patterns become very important. And then some of the other areas that we've looked at have to deal with looking at errors in logic. We can put 3 separate experts' reports together and ask our AI program to compare and contrast what facts and opinions did they agree on, what did they disagree on, and what were the errors in logic that were used. the other thing that I spend a lot of time in is, if you read, for example, the Fire and Arson Investigator, or you read some of the other critical journals in the field, and you set one of those articles aside and then come up and say, I've read about this before. It gives you the ability to rapidly search your references, your collection, and retrieve. And in some cases, you'll come up with articles that you forgot about or that somebody else may bring. So researching pertinent peer-reviewed articles and textbooks and expert reports are important. The final thing that I find really helpful is the generation of timelines from documents. So it's not uncommon to have an investigation where you may have 5,000 pages of different reports, and you want to quickly put together effectively who shot John. And it has the ability of going through all these documents and parsing out where they see the critical dates, and then generate a table and a timeline. So that's a very valuable commodity to use with some of the work that we do.
It's terrific. As a matter of
terminology changes.
Mhm. Yeah. And yeah, all of that. And
Yeah.
I can see where
terminology changes. There's a lot of things.
Okay, so Bob, we accidentally stepped on you.
One of the questions that come up is,
I'm sorry, Doctor. I'm sorry. I was wondering if we every once in a while you're going to see can you see a question pop up?
Just saw it.
Can you see it? Now, what we're going to do, and this is from Donna Ingram, the other side of the
Ingram, Icove Ingram.
Yes. So I know we stepped on you, Bob, and I'm sorry. You can answer your question later. But if you see a question pop up, we'd appreciate your answering those questions because we're going to have outside people ask questions throughout the course of these things, and I think that expands the ability for all of us to understand. So, Don asked a question: do you foresee the legal community embracing the technology and learn and to use it effectively, I guess. And whoever wants to take that, Bob.
Yeah, I don't foresee it. It's already happening. I've already been approached by a firm who has offices across the U.S., and they already know that this is here, and they need to stay on top of it. They need to stay in front of it, and they want to know how to use it most effectively. And I think all of us in this business that have done any minimal research on AI and how it can be used are familiar with some of the cases around the country where attorneys have used it blindly, and AI has produced documents that cite certain cases from around the country, but because there was no human oversight and vetting of that information and validating that information, they didn't realize that those sites that were, or those citations that were put in their briefs were fictitious. And the judges, rightfully so, spanked their hands pretty good and delivered some sanctions, and they went on and had to apologize to the court and come up with some sort of resolution. That's on the downside, but right now the legal community is going full steam ahead, and they've already got some services out there that will do some of the things that Dr. Icove has already spoken about of how they find additional information or research on the opposing experts and other similar cases around the country, and they can search that up and identify things as to how did the case end up, what were some of the things they learned from it, and be able to incorporate it into their own particular cases that they're working on. So I don't see them, there's no forethought or vision of seeing them embracing it in the future. They're doing it absolutely right now.
I'm sorry. I'm glad that they're doing that, and I'm sorry that they have they have misused it in the past with getting sanctioned for using information that was not reliable.
Right.
Well, Doctor, you had put together, you and Bob had put together some uses for the forensic engineering. In fact, you even have a uh, a a bit of I'm looking at what was generated here. Sandy will put that up in a few minutes, but can you talk about some of the things that you see for uses in forensic engineering cases? That you can you talk about the first one, which is summarizing the documents? You've already talked about Bob's talked about the one down in that he used for the IRS documents, which I would hate to have any IRS documents in front of me. But can you talk about how you think that would help this fire investigators in summarizing the documents? Just not only probably the reports, but how about depositions? Would it summarize depositions for you also?
Yeah, and in fact, being proactive in this, I went ahead and enrolled this semester, and I'm presently taking courses at the University of Tennessee School of Law. They have a Master of Legal Studies program. The first required course that you take is the impact of AI in legal research. And the first exercise we had was to go ahead and take a look at a swimming pool incident where a young kid is drowned. And we're supposed to go through, identify, and use the methodology that the attorneys use in analyzing cases, and then search by hand what the statutes are, what some of the cases are, and things like that. And then the next approach is to pick your favorite AI standalone program and run identically the same scenario. In addition, they asked for a list of questions to ask of your own client. And I thought that was pretty powerful. And, where you sort of need to advise, especially in doing a due diligence, what your client knows right off the bat. And these were some of the things identically that the attorneys are looking for, as well as comprehensive list of questions, as well as the issues, also the fact scenarios. So one of the things that they gave all of the students is full access to Westlaw, to Lexis, to Thomson Reuters, and in there now are all of the new experimental AI engines that do some of these functions. So I'm going to be interested to see how it works. I just got the account turned on this week, and I've already been looking through some of our own cases to see what comes up. The ability for some of the search engines that they have are unbelievable. However, they certainly don't replace a lot of the functionalities that Bob Toth and I have devised and put together. And it all comes down to asking the right question and prefacing as these AI programs.
Oops, we lost Doctor for a moment. Bob,
Yeah.
let me follow up on what the doctor was saying, but I'd like to get Westlaw myself. And do you think that the prosecuting attorneys and defense attorneys, I mean, even public defenders and public prosecutors, do you think they're going to catch up with? Thank you, doctor. You're back. Anyway, so do you think they're going to catch up and start using AI on this too?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I would be surprised if they're not using AI to assist them in their particular endeavors and things like that. But yeah, the use of AI, both in the legal community and the investigative community, is growing exponentially. You can't look anywhere on the internet anymore without finding some new particular AI generated assistant to help you in whatever industry you happen to be in. The and Dave touched on it too. It's just before we lost him there for a second, about what's important too is the way you prompt, or the way you ask for the data. In the past, if and one of the examples I give in one of the classes we teach is we got called for a fire investigation involving a very high performance exotic electric vehicle. Well, we've done hundreds, if not thousands, of vehicle fires over our careers,
Sure.
and we have a pretty good idea on how to process that scene and what to ask the homeowner or the vehicle owner and things like that.
Mhm.
And you could find checklists all over things to check for vehicle fires. But in this particular case, we've looked at EV fires before, but not these high performance EV fire. So in the past, let's say as recent as maybe 6 months to a year ago, the common approach may have been to go to Google and search up this vehicle, get some information on the vehicle, maybe do a check to see if there's been any recalls and other things, and maybe look at some bulletin boards, see if any other vehicle owners have expressed any concerns about this vehicle, which is time consuming, which could take a good portion of your investigative time.
Sure.
But with AI today, I can not only go there and ask about this particular vehicle, but it's going to come back and show me the recalls and provide me information. It'll produce documents of the vehicle, wiring diagrams of the vehicle. But to take it one step further, like I mentioned, we've all done vehicle fires. We pretty much have a script, if you will,
Mhm.
of what to ask the vehicle owner. I went and asked, I told this particular large language model that I've never investigated a fire in this type of vehicle, specifically high performance electric vehicle. I says, what do I need to ask the vehicle owner, the owner of the vehicle, during my investigation? And it provided me 20 questions that were far beyond just the average vehicle fire questions. It asks about the charging system. It asks about the battery management system. It told me to ask about at what level do you plug the vehicle in as far as the battery capacity. It went on and had some really great questions that as a investigator who's looked at hundreds of vehicle fires may not have never asked about this particular vehicle. But I took it 2 steps further. I asked the question again, but I said, what kind of questions should I ask the dealership that sold the vehicle? And it provided me again 20 more questions about what to ask the dealership, service records, and different types of diagnostics that they should do regularly on the vehicle that I wasn't aware of. And then finally, given the opportunity, I said, if I'm able to talk to the manufacturer of this vehicle, what type of questions should I have? Again, 20 more questions, high level questions about the electronics, about the charging system, about the powertrain, everything I would have been able to gather just on a simple Google search, but more additional information that I can gather and provide to somewhere down the road another subject matter expert, probably electrical engineer who is well versed in electric vehicles. That's going to help me diagnose the root cause of the problem. And all of that I just explained was generated. Those questions were generated in a shorter period of time than the time it took for me to explain it. So
Fantastic.
absolutely incredible.
Well, you keep reinforcing why I use Iris Investigations and your company all the time when I throw you work when it's not in my area, of course. But anyway, no. But we understand your expertise, and Doctor, we always go to you when we want when analysis for large cases, and one of our cases in Mississippi just settled. And so, and that was no doubt due to your analysis also. So, so you have, and Sandy's not with us here at this second, but you were talking about the value of AI for us fire investigators. And one of the things is one of the things that you teach, you and Bob teach out there, is how you could use AI for preparing for a deposition. How would you do that? I think you're. Can you hear me, Doctor?
Bob's been the expert in that. I've learned more from him than I've learned from anything else.
Okay.
I've used it. I've asked AI to review my report, and this is
please
where
don't
prompting.
ask him. Please don't ask him to review my report. Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
And here, but this illustrates how prompting is important. Let's back up a little bit. Let's say I'm preparing for a deposition and I'm looking at my report. I could ask one of my colleagues here at the office to review it and let me know what they think about some of the weaknesses in my report or my case or something like that. Or I can even send it to Dave or to you and say, listen, guys, this is a big deposition I got coming up. Let me know, take a look at my report and tell me what you think and where should I prepare. Because we all know that opposing counsel doesn't care what you know. They're going to try and find out what you don't know. And they want to see you sweat. They want to see how you handle the tough questions.
Right.
And so Dave and Michael, you may come back and say, you didn't speak much about this particular aspect of your investigation. You may want to prepare a response for that, and on and on. And we could go back and forth over a couple days, maybe just sending back some thoughts and things like that.
Sure.
Which would be very helpful. The way I use it is I take my report and I have AI analyze it. And then I say, pretend you're an expert defense attorney trained by O.J. Simpson Dream Team. Provide me 20 questions that I could expect from opposing counsel during cross-examination. And again, about as quickly as I just explained that, it spit out 20 questions that were darn good. I mean, probably I would expect 18 of those 20 questions to be asked during deposition. So now I'm preparing for those types of attacks on my report. And if I survive and I feel worthy after working out those 20 possible questions, and I either feel brave or silly, depending on your perspective, I'm going to say, well, those are 20 good questions. Can you provide me 20 more? And I did that, and it spit out 20 more questions. And out of those 20 more questions, probably 15 were additional questions I might expect in deposition. So I'm preparing for those types of assaults on my investigation and preparing myself to be able to explain those things in a logical, cogent, calm manner, as opposed to going in there without that preparation and being able to answer those tough questions.
And using that team, would that also result in a miscarriage of justice? Well, never mind. I'll talk about OJ again. No, it gave you the questions that you hadn't thought of that were very good questions,
right?
And so it's sort of like attorneys that I have an attorney here in Kansas that prepares for 300 questions that are never asked. It's really great. So you're always ready.
Yeah. And it's not unlike that, Michael. It's not unlike going to your client's office and preparing for a deposition. I've done that before. I've gone to counsel's office and we've sat down and we've gone over my report and he's asked me some very tough questions. Again, that's always been part of a good prep for a deposition, but it's timely. It takes a lot of time. You might have to drive halfway across town to meet him at the office or get on a Zoom call like this and spend hours going back and forth. And while I'm not saying that particular process can be eliminated now, what I'm saying is AI can help with that in advance, and you can prepare for that stuff. And and going back in my early career, I remember sometimes prepping for a trial while I'm riding up the elevator with the prosecutor, and he's saying, "Well, don't worry, I'll ask this question, that question. Don't worry, we'll get." We're prepping for my testimony as we're riding up the elevator.
Right.
That can't happen anymore today, and
No.
should never happen. And this again is another tool to help you prep for it.
Yes. Well, Doctor, you have an extensive library of going back many years, and I'm familiar with it. I was and so is your partner Don Ingram, and you. That was in the old days, that was part of how you would search for information. Now you're searching for databases now. What can you give us an idea? Because I understand I'm speaking as a novice fire investigator who just came into the field here. And so I'm saying, well, how do I get to these databases? How can I find out if this is a electrical causation versus a accidental other kind of thing? What can you tell the novice fire investigator how to search these databases?
Well, that's a good question. I've been able to put together between myself and Dr. Vito Bobraskas probably the largest library. We have 85,000 PDF documents that represent the entire forensic fire investigation field. And so a lot of those I obtained directly from, for example, the IAAI. You can download the journal if you're a member and index it using a standalone AI program. I'm also the editor-in-chief now of the National Academy of Forensic Engineers, and we decided to put all of our issues online. So very complex cases, about half of them that are published are fire and explosion cases. And so you can search for those. If you're you can become, as a student, a free member of the Society of Fire Protection Engineers. They put online close to 15 years worth of their articles, and a lot of them have bearing in fire investigations. So it's a matter of accumulating this information and having it a place where you can retrieve it. One of the programs I use is called EndNote, and EndNote allows you to search libraries throughout the world, look for documents, and categorize them, and then search back for them. And in a lot of cases, it will retrieve the PDF versions of those documents. Also, I have all of my textbooks online. I buy the electronic book format of them and then go ahead and load it into this EndNote program and search for it. Like I said, it's the old 80-20 rule. It turns out that 20% of the information that you ever have or read is pertinent. The other 80% drops off the background, but it's finding and retrieving and analyzing this information that's most important. So I carry on my laptop over close to 4,000 documents that are pertinent to forensic fire investigations. And when somebody says, or they'll call me up and said, "Well, who said that? Where is it?" I can not only retrieve it, but email it to you. And also, another thing that Bob Toth taught me about was the ability to use effectively footnotes in your reports, whether it may be definitions from NFPA 921 or actual documents themselves. It's turning out now that the criterion that that is being looked upon expert fire investigators is whether or not that they accounted for peer review and error rates. So peer review doesn't also mean having somebody else take a look at your report. Peer review has to deal with you being able to reference core research documents that support or enhance your conclusions. So that's what the judges are looking at, as well as other folks on the other side of your cases or your own client. So especially in some of these cases where they say, well, I don't know, I didn't see that. We have one article coming out in the National Academy of Forensic Engineers that looks at home use of oxygen systems. And what happens with if somebody's using one and they end up having a fire, they have the unit on. If the oxygen continues to flow, especially through the cannula, and it's on the floor or on a carpet surface, it's going to have a distinctive spiral. And if you haven't seen that before, you may overlook the fact that the home oxygen was in use at the time. That only shows up in a couple of peer-reviewed articles that are in the in some of the textbooks. I know we put one in Kirk's, and it became very valuable. But we went ahead now and are publishing an article about what things to check for, including that. So it's knowing these anomalies that we see that are important. Another area is in corrugated stainless steel tubing that in some cases with lightning strikes can form small holes and allow the gas to come out. So these are things that if you didn't have access to it, you wouldn't see it. One of the other areas is the ISFI conference proceedings. I make sure that I buy every one of those sets, and in there are articles that are critical to know and to be able to retrieve and include with your report. So it comes down to what I call in science and engineering the golden rule, and the gold are the textbooks and the peer-reviewed documents. So it comes down to he who has the gold rules, and your ability not only to search and retrieve that information, but also reference it will make the difference between a good and a great report. So I have Bob in that direction for doing indexing and footnoting.
Well, he is very good at that. Sandy's back, and Sandy, would you, because, and I want Bob to talk about a couple of the things before we run out of time. Would you put up that graphic?
I will, please? Sure. Yeah, sure Bob, will.
If you would, now these are the ones that you two put together for the National Academy of Forensic Engineers. And these are some of the things that you believe that are really good for us fire investigators. Bob, we were talking about, and the doctor just talked about finding different articles that not only reinforce your opinion, but you want to find some that are against your opinion, so you're ready for it. So that was in searching databases. Can you talk about a couple of these things? We only have about 10 minutes left. If you'd be so kind as to talk about the other subject matter here.
Sure. The one of the things that jumps out at me is writing expert reports. Again, words are important, and I think it's hazardous for us to think that AI is going to write our reports for us. I think AI can be there to assist in the production of our reports by finding that data and finding those references and things like that. A simple example I give when Dave and I teach is we've all seen it in the Hollywood movies. Someone will take a cigarette, throw it on the ground, and ignite gasoline.
Yeah.
And we've seen investigators over the years think that that is possible. So I do a demonstration. I ask that question in one of the AI large language models, and when I first started doing it, some of the large language models, some of the free ones would say, well, absolutely, because the end of a cigarette is this temperature, and here's what gasoline vapors ignite at, so be very careful around gasoline, et cetera, et cetera. But one of the AI models out there, which does the research and also gives you the proper citations, referenced a peer-reviewed article that were done by ATF agents on the propensity for cigarettes to ignite gasoline vapors. And it gave the citation, and the citation went to the peer-reviewed article online. And the abstract talked about 7,000 different tests that they've done to try and ignite gasoline vapors with a lit cigarette, and each one of them failed. So the likelihood of that happening is extremely low, if not non-existent. So then we can use that peer-reviewed research and not AI's output, because AI produced the citation, and we're able to use that human counterpart, if you will, to vet that information. And we found that peer-reviewed article, and that's a tremendous asset when you're putting together the supporting documentation for your ignition scenarios and your investigation report. But it doesn't write your report. You still have to provide the data. You still have to put something together. You still have to have that human oversight. I like to think of AI assisting in the production of my report like Grammarly on steroids, where it's going to look at your punctuation. It'll look at your, but it'll go even further. It'll look at your, is it written in a logical, chronological sequence? Is your logic sound? I can compare my report to sections of 921 and say, does my investigation comport with chapter 4 of 921 in a scientific method? And it'll look at my report and the information in it and compare it to what 921 recommends, and provide some insight as to whether or not I cover all the bases with the scientific method, or if it involves an appliance or a vehicle or my particular ignition scenario, and see if it comports to what 921 guidelines state. It can also identify other working hypotheses I may not have considered, and may have to go back and add more to my investigation. But all of that being said, at the end of the day, I think what's most important is, and we've said this for years, when we do Google searches, it's garbage in, garbage out. So if you're not thinking about how to properly ask the questions and produce the right prompts, you're not going to get the most robust and reliable information out of your artificial intelligence tools. There's a whole bunch of different types of what we call prompt layering, if you will, and it's really an iterative process. If any of us were to call Dr. Icove up and say, I've got this fire, here's what I'm thinking, Dr. Icove is going to give his response, his output, and then you're going to say, well, yeah, I understand what you're saying about this, but did you consider this? And we'll have this dialogue back and forth. And that's not unlike the way the prompt engineering works when we have this prompt layering. It's an iterative process. You ask the question, it produces an output. If it's not exactly what you're looking for, say, no, I think you're missing the point here. Let me rephrase the question. And you go back and forth, and it starts to narrow down that focus. And that's very important when you start thinking about prompt engineering, as we call it. There's things like comparative analysis where we reveal relationships. There's a process called metacognitive prompting. That's where you ask AI to explain their thought process and their reasoning process, so you can expose a transparency and figure out what their process was when they come up with this output, and help identify potential errors in your analysis. You can also use it to check for biases in your report. Are you exposing any biases? Are you showing any biases in your analysis? There's another technique called calibrated uncertainty, where you ask AI to provide a level of confidence with their output, and why did they give it this level of confidence? And it's going to start showing you its resources and things that it used to come up with this output and how confident it is in it. You can go back and ask the tool itself to look at it as a third party observer and identify any biases or shortcomings that output may have in it. And all of these things together are called task framing, where you could go one by one, or you could create a prompt where it says, explain your analysis, evaluate the biases, indicate confidence levels where appropriate, and why you've chosen this level of confidence. So it's going to go through that in your report and give you a tremendous analysis of your investigation, of your report, your documentation. And then, of course, I have over 40 prompts pre-written already that will go through grammar, logic, flow. It'll identify any terminology that I may have to explain to the layperson. We sometimes get caught up in our own lexicon that you and I and other investigators certainly understand, but the layperson that's in the jury box, or the judge, or maybe even the attorney may not understand. So all of those things are important as you produce your product, because that's your report is the only thing that speaks to your investigation. So
absolutely. Yes, and I want to tell you this. You keep reinforcing why I use high-risk investigation for complex and particularly fires, other than myself, of course. And I use Dr. Icove. Doctor, I want you to tell us, what kind of consulting are you doing? What kind of consulting are you doing? I know you're using AI, but we've been using you. We've had an association with you for years. So what about the Icove Ingram group? What are kind of consulting, or what are they doing? What are you doing?
We do three major areas. One is in forensic fire scene reconstruction, which involves, and a lot of times, computer modeling to take a look at the incipient stage of the fire. That's when it's best used. The second area is in standard of care. So if a jurisdiction gets sued over an issue involving whether or not that they met or exceeded the standard of care in an investigation, or in a civil case, whether or not that your own investigators, as well as the investigators for the other side, whether or not that they met the standards of care. And effectively what we do is a 25 bullet checklist that cover all of the JPRs from NFPA 1033. It's a scorecard. It's whether you win or you lose. It's binary. Then the third area is in spoliation, where somebody accidentally or intentionally gets rid of evidence in a case or allows it to disappear. And those are the slicey dicey cases that we have. And then sometimes I'll show up at an evidence examination, and the next thing you know, it's a win-win, because my client has been removed from a potential target just because they're afraid of us, of what we might say during a case. And in some cases, in one spoliation case, one of the targets of the case, the plaintiffs went to and said, if we promise not to sue you, can we have David work for us? And I said, sure. So they dropped any crosshairs on my client, which were happy. And then I went over and worked for one of the for the potential plaintiff in the case. So those are the three main areas that we have. Now with the AI, what we're doing now more than ever is refining all three of those areas, especially searching for cases. One of the facilities that we have is we have a partner we work with for peer reviewing experts, and they will, for a small fee, will produce a report showing all the cases that we are aware of that an expert's worked in, and what their record was, how many successful challenges, Dauber challenges were against them, or Fry challenges, and how many were not successful, and identify those cases. And then we also go after the expert reports and keep them archived. And in some of the cases, depositions appear. So we have this trove of dossiers every time we're looking at different experts, and it's all from their public record. So these are some areas that really are helpful. And like I said, sometimes it's the 80-20 rule. You just don't know what the 20% of the information that we need to build our case or to buttress somebody else's argument. So, so those are the things. But what AI has done is only refined and made us much better, as they say, allowed us to sharpen the saw, as long as we don't get cut with it.
Well, I want to tell you, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for asking that question.
Yeah, well, I want to tell you that this reinforces not only why I've had an association with Dr. Icove for all these years, but for Bob Toth. Yeah. I had a massive fire one time where I was hired by one client, and I brought Bob in for the other clients, so that I knew that it was going to be right. It was going to be investigated properly. Now, Sandy, do me a favor before we sign off. I want you to put up those things again that they've covered. So, fire investigators out there, take a look at this. This is the kind of thing that Dr. Icove and Bob Toth have been discussing, and this is where AI can help you. And we're going to continue to try and put on very good informative classes like this. And we thank everybody for watching us. You can take it down then now, Sandy. But anyway, so they can see us. Sandy, did you have any questions before? I want to thank everybody. Go ahead.
I want to thank you guys for coming on, and I thought it was very informative. And I was watching backstage there for a little bit, as you saw. So, you guys are doing a great job, and I hope that we can talk about it again as the technology and fire investigation goes forward, just to get updates on where we're at with it. I'm really intrigued by it. So I hope to learn more about it myself. So
thank you, guys.
We can either talk again, or you can talk to my avatar in the future. What do you think?
Oh, all right. I love avatars.
I saw your avatar. It's not as good looking as you are. Okay. And then, and Dr. Icove, I'm going to get a better looking face. I think that'll be better. Anyway, but thank you again for your time. I know it's so very valuable.
Thank you, guys.
And Sam, why don't you tell people when we're going to be on?
We are going to try to be on every first Tuesday of each month. And so if you are interested and you have something that you would like to talk about too, just reach out to us also if you're in this field, and tell us any topics you'd like to hear about, or if you'd like to share something. So just let us know. Okay. And
we'll be on 10 a.m. Central.
So
that'll be the live one. Okay.
Yes. Yes. Thank you, guys. So we are going to end now, and we will see you guys next time. Thanks.
All right. Thank you very much. Take care.